Paradox Interactive has released quite a few games: EU4, HOI4, Victoria 3, Crusader Kings 3, Stellaris, and much more. So today I just wanted to take a look at Google Trends and see which of these games are doing the best in terms of popularity, monthly active viewers, and much more. So stay tuned and let's get there. So let's start with our good old favorite EU4. Let me go back to the home tab and type in Europa Universalis 4. Europa Universalis, yeah, the video game. Not enough search data. Well, actually, let me change it from my country to the global data. And maybe let's do about 5 years. 5 years sounds about right. It's actually #1 in China. Well, it's a bit weird because the dates here are completely dead and I don't think that's true at all, so maybe we need to add the Europa Universalis 4 specifically. I guess the topic? No, definitely not the topic. Maybe it's the rights of man, but I think that should be the DLC now, so let's just click it to see. Okay, this seems a lot more accurate than what it was before. So Europa Universalis 4 Rights of Man, will take it as if it's just EU4, because Rights of Man is one of the early DLCs, I believe, but let's just ignore that and focus that as its own game. Okay, so we can see in the past 5 years, the peak date for EU4 traffic was actually June 7th, 2020. Did something happen on the day? Let me go check out. I opened the EU4 wiki just to see, and let me check 2020. In September 2020, they formed the team in Barcelona. I don't think that's what happened there. Okay, let's take a look at the DLCs, because DLC Emperor was released in 2020. But let me check when exactly it was released. Okay, so as we can see, the peak EU4, according to the traffic at least, was June 2020, when the new EU4 Emperor DLC was released. And I actually think Emperor was one of the best DLCs. I started playing around late 2019, early 2020, so just before the Emperor, and I was super hyped for the Emperor update, so I can see why it's doing so well. It's doing pretty much double the average, so that was a good time for E4, but there was a steep decline afterwards. And I'm assuming somewhere around here the Leviathan DLC was released, which had a lot of hate around it, especially when it was just released, so this period is a bit down, then it's a bit up during the later DLCs, and it's kinda going up and down, but overall, over time, doing quite well, very stable. And let's see the interest by region, and we can see Sweden, so the home of EU4, the home of Paradox, is doing the best. So, as you would expect, Sweden #1, then followed by Norway, Denmark, Poland, and Lithuania, surprisingly. I would have guessed Poland for sure, because Poland is one of my top audiences on YouTube, around top 3 or 4 actually, and actually may include the low search volumes as well. Okay, so if we include the low search volumes, the #1 is Svalbard and Jan Mayen, and we all know what Jan Mayen is in EU4, right? But anyways, let me go back. We have the Nordics in the top alongside Poland and Denmark. Poland and Lithuania, so the Nordics and the PLC, and even Finland doing quite well there. Then Estonia, Serbia, the Netherlands, China doing very, very well. EU4 is pretty popular in China, it seems. 57 out of 100. Well, I've seen quite a few really good, crazy good Chinese players doing the world conquest in 50 years or 40 years, when the new Ottoman DLC was released with all the ALET mechanics and stuff like that. So I can definitely see that being the case. Then there's a lot of other European countries like Hungary, Latvia, Czechia, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Turkey is also among the popular. And again, with Turkey especially, I'm not surprised. Turkey is one of my top audiences on my YouTube channel, so no surprise there. Croatia, Slovenia, Austria and Portugal round out the top 20. It's actually quite interesting because it sort of matches my channel demographics, but at the same time not really. My top audiences are actually the US, Russia is one of them, the UK, Germany, Poland and Turkey. So I assume because other countries have much bigger populations, that's what's happening here. But yeah, let me just quickly go to the lifetime, I guess 2004 analytics, because EU4 is a pretty old game. It was released in 2013, it seems. Let me just double check. Yeah, it was released in August of 2013, so it's a pretty old game. and yet it's still popular to this day. I believe I saw like a Steam charts that said there's around 20,000 daily active users that play EU4, and I can't believe it. It's such an old game, but I guess people are really into it. Yeah, it was quite consistent in terms of popularity. Ever since the release date, we can see that the Emperor is clearly the peak, but everything else is still relatively stable. No like major dips to like 25 or something. So that's really good. The EU4 is doing quite well. I'm hoping that the EU5, so the, what was it called? The Project Caesar will also be as good. I have very high hopes for it, so I hope it goes all well. But for now, let me add the HOI4, another really popular game from Paradox. But why does it say computer game here and video games there? So in the last 5 years, Hearts of Iron 4 is actually about 20% more popular than EU4, which is what I expect actually. I see a lot of HOI4 content on YouTube, quite a bit more than EU4, and it's generally does very well. So I'm assuming that's the case. And as we can see that it kinda started at roughly the same points, and EU4 overtook for a bit during Emperor, but then ever since then it was pretty consistently lower than Hearts of Iron 4. And especially these days the gap is massive, it's almost a double. Well, I mean, it sort of makes sense. I think Hearts of Iron 4 is a much newer game. It's from 2016, so 3 years younger. So perhaps it's a bit more playable. I haven't actually played much of HOI4 myself, so I cannot say for sure. But let's see at the compared breakdown by region. And as we can see, pretty much most of the world, except for Canada for some reason, and Iberia, France, Poland again. Poland, a big fan of EU4, Sweden and Norway. Except for those couple of countries, pretty much everyone prefers HOI4. And as we can see, the biggest fans of EU4 are actually Denmark, Netherlands, Sweden, Portugal and Norway. And if you do its opposite, the biggest fans of HOI4 are Iran, Ukraine, Belarus, South Korea and Japan. For some reason, Japan and South Korea are not the countries I think of when I imagine HOI4. You know, I imagine Germany, I imagine Russia, I guess would make sense. I imagine the UK and stuff like that, but it's really interesting. And with HOI4, the most popular thing is No Step Back. I actually have no idea what it is. Kaiser Redux? I also have no idea what it is. So that's the case. So HOI4 is clearly winning. But what happens? What happens if we spiced up even more and add the rest of the Paradox games? So I wanted to go with Crusader Kings, because I actually wanted to buy the game myself and try it out. I've never played it before. I have some friends that play it, and they say it's really good, but I haven't played myself, so cannot say. Okay, and it looks pretty weird. It's Crusader Kings is a much newer game. It makes sense. It was released, I guess, when is it? September 2020 or so. Let me double check. It was released, yeah, September 2020, so checks out. In that case, let me just customize it to September the 1st. Let's do the 1st. Again, we can clearly see that actually, HOI4 and EU4 have basically exactly the same popularity level. It's probably being carried a lot by this spike here when it was just released. But otherwise, they have basically the same popularity level to this day. They're basically neck and neck, and HOI4 is still clearly above everyone else, pretty consistently. There's also a big spike here for Crusader Kings. In February of 2022, I assume some DLC was released or something. February 22, yeah, the Royal Court DLC was released. I guess it's pretty popular then. And if you take a look at the breakdown by regions, and now the map is a bit more colorful. Now, let's take a look at the countries that are big fans of Crusader Kings specifically, which is South Korea, South Africa, France and Canada. So HOI4 is still dominating, but some countries prefer Crusader Kings, it seems like. But let me go further than that and add every single game from Paradox. So let's add Stellaris, but for now, they're actually so close, neck and neck. And Stellaris actually edges out just a tiny bit over Crusader Kings and EU4. Okay, so on Steam charts, Europa Universalis have 17,000 players as of the time of me recording, with 30-day average of 14,000. Victoria 3 is actually around 10,000 only, with an average of 9,000. So just just about half the players are playing. Crusader King 3 actually has 18,000 players with 15k average, so very close. Basically the same level as EU4, and as you can see the chart says Crusader Kings is slightly ahead, which is also somewhat reflected in the numbers. So, and Stellaris is just a bit lower, I guess quite a bit lower when you take in the average, and they are doing somewhat decent on here as well. Seems like the North America specifically loves Stellaris, so US and Canada love it. Australia and South Africa are also big fans. Most of Europe still prefers HOI4. Some parts of Europe prefer EU4, and another part prefer Crusader Kings 3. But it seems like outside of Europe, it's pretty much HOI4 domination. It's like the case for South America and Latin America in general. It's the case for China as well. So let's just do last year here. Let's not think about it too much, and let's just do last year only. And as you can see, Victoria 3 is doing the worst, which we just saw on Steam charts. It has half the active players. Stellaris is actually doing quite well, and basically same level as EU4 and Crusader Kings 3, and HOI4 is a clear winner, the clear breadwinner for Paradox Interactive. They're doing very well, pretty consistent, and when you take all of the games into account, as you can see, the map turns super red, and even if I add the low volume regions, it's still mostly red. We have some green down here in South Africa, we have green in the US of A, we have blue up north in Sweden, but everything else seems quite red. So HOI4, the clear winner, the best Paradox game, obviously.